Hey, today I'll be talking about episodes 8 through 11 of The Double. Lee is still trying to put together a crack team to win this school competition, and luckily her show of bravery, standing up for Shijie, helped her befriend Liu Xu. She suggested they form a team with Jingrui and Shijie. Subtle. Shijie agrees to meet with Lee for tea but is very standoffish. Turns out they have a history. Well, he has a history with the real Jiang Li. 13 years ago, after the death of her mother, the Ye family matriarch, Grandma Ye, came to pick her up. This would make sense. She is her father's daughter, of course, but he had other wives, and extra daughters aren't all that precious. Also, having just lost her daughter, it would make sense that Grandma Ye would want to take in the last remaining link to her. Little Jiang Li was not having it, screaming that she wanted nothing to do with her mother's family, and that they were filthy merchants, while she was an aristocratic Jiang. Kids can be the worst, but this attitude is insane. Who was raising her like this? Grandma Ye fell really ill after this encounter, and her whole maternal family, including Shijie, now thinks really poorly of her. Lee accesses the Tongclopedia. Little Jiang Li was coached to act like this. Just before her grandma came to pick her up, Madame Ji met with her, crying, to say that everyone was gossiping about what a terrible stepmom she was. She got it in little Jiang Li's head that the Ye family were a bunch of filthy merchants who wanted to use her, and that if she went with Grandma Ye, everyone would say the rumors were true and Madame Ji would be so sad that she'd probably die. This poor kid had a really messed up upbringing. Lee explains to Shijie that growing up, her stepmother sure did treat her well, in public and private. But it was a double-edged sword. She never had to do anything she didn't want to, she was never punished for her mistakes. In short, Madame Ji turned her into a spoiled brat. Not to mention, she was simply too young to know what consequences her actions that day might have. Shijie is not entirely convinced, handing her some money as thanks and wanting to end their relationship there, but Lee asks that he pay her back another way.
跟我结对，帮我过了岁试这一关。
She promises that if given the opportunity, she'll prove to him and the whole Ye family that she has grown and is not the same person she was as a child.
江离，我答应你。
Oh yeah! Their brand new team ends up immediately getting into it with the Lee brothers team, and they get into a public pissing contest that ends in a bet. If their team loses, then the younger Lee brother will become a monk. If their team loses, then Lee has to go back to Junyu Hall. Dun dun dun! Wait, does anyone even live there anymore? Word of this big bet gets to Shun through his sister. Duke Su has continued to look into the salt case, and he manages to find another connection through this new character, Zhi Yan. She is a courtesan and works for him as a spy because his parents saved her life. She seems to think that someone was behind his parents' deaths and is looking into it as a way to repay them. We get a bit of backstory on little Duke Su as we learn his father died in a battle that should have been an easy win, and his mother, distraught over the loss of her husband, eventually succumbed to an illness right in front of him. Yeesh, speaking of tough childhoods. Meanwhile, we continue with this awful relationship as the princess comes in for a friendly chat about Shun's dealings with Jiang Li lately.
怎么样？她漂亮吗？
So clearly she has him followed all the time and must know that they met at the coming of age ceremony and that he went to grade her exam papers as well. Just as I'm thinking she's about to start breaking his fingers or something, she tosses him some money saying she's heard about the bet and wants to put some money on Jiang Li winning. Ta-ta! This woman is so unhinged. She's not the only one who's heard about the bet.
离谱！
Yeah, she was supposed to be keeping a low profile at the school. It's like day 2. He rushes off to see her and she is already kneeling. She apologizes for embarrassing him. She cries that she didn't want this either, but she had no choice but to stand up for herself when the Lee brothers started bullying her. She begs him to give her the opportunity to stand up for herself, to show everyone that she is a proud daughter of the Jiang family. It 100% works. Now, of course, everyone's looking down on her since they don't know she's a well-educated woman and she hasn't shown off her skills. She's actually a very talented musician, a great writer, chess player, so on. The only issue is that she has an old injury in her wrist that acts up a bit when she uses it. We get a training montage with all the kids preparing for the big exam. Duke Su even has time to come by and give them a bow and arrow lesson. He's officially the creepy older man hanging around the high school. What's that you say? She's really an adult woman masquerading as a teen? Yeah, heard it 1,000 times before, pervert. He brings Lee to a top physician to treat her injury. She has to hold off on playing for 2 days, but after that should be back to 100%. Finally, it's day 1 of the tourney. Shun arrives to oversee things personally. The first part is a written exam. After a preliminary round, the people moving to the finals are Ye Shijie and Big Brother Lee. It's like a game show with a buzzer. The proctor recites a line and they have to identify it and explain it. Shijie absolutely kills it. Lee can't even get a word in. But then comes a line that finally stumps him. After watching him struggle for a while, Lee rings the bell with a smile, answering the question easily. Suddenly, he's making a comeback, answering question after question. It's not long before he has the lead going into the last question. They both get the points, making the score 10-15. Finally, an open-ended question worth 5 points.
新皇登基，国库上空，内有贪腐横行之忧，外有旱灾频发之患，何策有效？
Shijie gives the morally upright answer of rooting out the corruption and then getting the money where it needs to go. Lee thinks the priority should be disaster relief first. The corrupt officials can be dealt with later, over time, but the government can't run if they're constantly trying to root out every rotten apple. Lee points out how idealistic and ultimately childish Shijie's thinking is. There will always be corruption. In the end, the win goes to Shijie, partly because of Shen's own hangups. Having experienced firsthand how badly corruption can hurt the common people, he agrees with Shijie that turning a blind eye, even just a bit, will only make the wound fester. Those points bring things to a tie and they both get first place. So ends day 1.